There's not much that's new about the Johnson County Courthouse. It's a familiar old site in downtown Olathe. Serious talk about replacing this building isn't new either. County leaders were floating new courthouse proposals as far back as 2001. The facility is not aging gracefully. It was built well over 60 years ago, and even though it's been expanded 3 times and updated at least 7, problems with the building persist. Those problems include 1. Safety and security, 2. A decaying structure with outdated technology, and 3. Accessibility for people with disabilities. We begin with safety and security. The Johnson County Courthouse is laid out in such a way that forces inmates to use public hallways. The sheriff's office has to stretch manpower to keep them separated from the public. And when a defendant is free on bail, there's even more of a chance they'll encounter their victim in the hall.
Based on the current configuration of the courthouse, we cannot prevent that from happening. And it's unfortunate because it's intimidating to those individuals. It causes additional stress to them.
The layout of the courthouse also doesn't allow for secured waiting areas for victims. That's something this crime victim could have used. She describes a close encounter in the hall with her attacker.
It's completely uncomfortable. It's scary. It's not anything you want to go through, especially after everything you've already gone through, and being nervous of them walking by you is just awful. It's awful.
The concerns about a safe environment go beyond crime victims. Any registered voter in the county can be called to jury duty. But in some cases, violent offenders wait in rooms like this, just a few feet away from where the jury decides their fate.
The defendant comes out of here, and the jury comes out of here. And we're all in the same little area, and that's what we'd like to avoid.
Sheriff's deputies have to go to great lengths to make sure jurors and defendants don't bump into each other. Many courtrooms are cramped and don't leave jurors much physical separation.
I've had a number of jurors after trials indicate that, based on the current configuration of the courthouse, that they felt extremely uncomfortable having to have so much direct contact with dangerous individuals.
Then there's the security of the over 400,000 people who pass through here in a given year. It's the place they come to apply for marriage licenses, finalize adoptions, and resolve family issues like child custody. Most government buildings are set back far from the street to discourage terrorism and other security threats. But the Johnson County Courthouse is extremely close to the street.
We don't want to have to wait till tragedy happens to convince everyone that it's time for a new courthouse.
Next, we look at the building's decaying infrastructure and outdated technology. The wear and tear is easy to spot. Crumbling walls, walls separating from windows, and a crack in an outside wall that starts in the foundation and stretches all the way to the roof. Water often leaks from ceilings, and cold air comes in through windows. Water leaking in around windows and through cracks causes damage and leads to additional concerns, like potential mold, all of which the county then has to spend money to address. Repair crews stay busy tackling one problem after another. The courthouse has also struggled to keep pace with technology. Only 3 of 23 courtrooms have modern audiovisual equipment. The other 20 rely on electronics that in some cases date back to the 80s, like these boom boxes. If a new courthouse isn't built, the county would have to do a major remodel to bring those 20 courtrooms into the 21st century.
You basically have to gut it all the way down to the pillars and columns before you can put in the technology and run all the cabling and wire.
Finally, we take a look at all the courthouse's problems with accessibility and complying with federal law that protects people with disabilities. The Americans with Disabilities Act has been around since 1990.
The vast majority of courtrooms in this courthouse are not set up to allow a person with disabilities to come into the courtroom and testify.
Most doorways are too narrow. It's hard for someone in a wheelchair to wheel themselves through without crushing their fingers. Someone has to always be there to push them through. Many courtrooms come with steep steps and no ramps to get around them. This man had to balance himself on his crutches while he opened his own door.
We don't have enough space to have a ramp. We don't have enough space to cut down the jury boxes and make them flat and expand them. We don't have the space to do that, to get wheelchairs in and out.
To truly make the facility ADA accessible, you're ripping out walls, gutting out floors to remodel with the necessary space for complete ADA compliance.
County leaders are also considering the need for a new coroner facility. Dr. Robert Prosser is the Johnson County Coroner.
I've been involved with the coroner's office in Johnson County for about the last 20 years. During all of those 20 years, we have rented facilities from other people in order to do our autopsies.
Right now, investigations of suspicious deaths in Johnson County take place in Wyandotte County at this privately owned lab. Johnson County investigators can't obtain and process DNA and trace evidence here. To do it, they would need a facility like you see here, specially designed for that purpose.
You need an isolated room to do the autopsy, and you have to make sure that there's no air flowing into that room from other places that could contaminate it.
A new facility would also allow for autopsies in a public health emergency like Ebola or anthrax. It's something that's not possible now. Prosser says lives could be saved if cause of death could be determined quickly on the first victims in a crisis.
We do not have a facility that is designed to take full advantage of 21st century forensic science.
Besides 21st century science, Johnson County is also trying to keep pace with 21st century demographic trends. The courthouse opened in 1952 to serve a population of just under 63,000. Today, the county has well over 500,000 residents, and it's growing by an average of 10,000 people a year. Over the years, conference rooms and storage space were turned into courtrooms to keep up with changing needs. Today, planners believe the courthouse could need as many as 12 new courtrooms to meet future needs. They've come up with a plan for a new courthouse to meet those needs. The county's plan for a new courthouse looks like this. It would be built in downtown Olathe, right across the street and to the north of the current building. It would have 28 new courtrooms, and a new state-of-the-art coroner facility would be built at another location. The new courthouse would cost approximately $182 million and could be built in 4 years. The new coroner facility would cost $19 million. The new courthouse would come with a new secure layout. Right now, the public, represented by these yellow dots, shares walking paths with inmates, represented by the green dots. They use the same hallways. In a new courthouse, the paths would be separate, like you see here. If a new courthouse isn't built, expanding, renovating, and updating the existing courthouse would be much more expensive, $216 million versus $182, and would take longer, 13 years versus 4. A new coroner facility would not be built, and even after pouring $216 million into the building, the county would still face serious problems with it. An already old structure would keep getting older, and the cost of maintaining the aging infrastructure would keep piling up. The courthouse would still be too close to the street. Accessibility would improve, but remain very limited, and inmates would still be moving in public areas, leaving in place the potential for intimidating encounters with jurors and crime victims.
You're literally shaking.
It's not comfortable. I wish that he would be off to the side so we're not walking through the hall where I'd have to see him.
We want to have an appropriate, safe courthouse for everybody that comes to the courts, whether it's jurors or the public or people coming to do their business.
Whatever Johnson County residents decide about the future of their courthouse, it remains a vital cornerstone to American democracy. For Johnson County government, I'm Eric Schultz.